Hey, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Hey, welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, excited to have you today, and we've got a very special guest. And whether you're watching this new or you're watching this as a replay, this may be one of the most important episodes that you ever watch, especially if you're going to be in business. If you're going to be a real estate investor, unless you're just going to play Monopoly all day long and not buy anything and go around the world and just collect your $200 and try to survive on that. We know that's not going to work. But we, as note investors, you're in the business of real estate. Even if you're an entrepreneur doing something else, you've got to make sure that your assets are protected. And a lot of things you need to have a CYA, a cover your assets aspect to what you're doing, because it's, any type of business is not if you're ever going to get sued by a disgruntled employee, investor, thing like that. It's when you're going to get sued. And what happens when the SHIT hits the fan can be kind of a stressful thing. But we are honored to have my good buddy, friend, confident brother from another mother, Mr. Aaron Scott Young, join us here. Now, if you don't know who Aaron is, he is the CEO of Laughlin and Associates, one of the many things that he does. And Laughlin is one of the longest running companies out there, over 50 years of creating LLCs. Original founder, I don't want to take anything from Aaron, but really created the value of the Las Vegas LLC out there for you guys looking for protection. So one of the most impactful things you can do is protect your business, protect your assets, and create a great foundation to help you go forward. And that's what Aaron is here today to talk about this stuff, some of the ways to protect yourself and why you need to take note and make this a very must-watch through from start to finish episode for you. Not for me, not for Aaron, but for you and your future business self. So, Aaron, what's going on, buddy? Glad to have you here today.
It's always good to be with you, Scott. Thanks for having me back on. It's been a little while, and I'm really glad to be back because you bring so much value to your community, and I've been around your people, your tribe for years and years now. I mean, my goodness,
I think we've known each other over 15 years now that I think
seems
about it.
like it. Yeah, yeah. It's been. I was a young man when I met you, and
Yeah, you and I are both younger men when we met each other.
I think it was pre-grandchildren, and this summer we will welcome grandchildren number 9 and number 10. So
Very nice.
it's been
Congratulations,
a
man.
while that we've been together, and I'm always delighted to be associated with you and what you're doing here. We have so many people that we've met over the years who've benefited from what they've learned from you. So anyway, great to be here.
Well, vice versa here. I mean, we've got a lot of clients have understood. I mean, there's a lot of ways to structure your business, and a lot of people have a tendency to do it on the cheap, and they end up messing up when something happens go south. But anyway, we'll get to
Anyway.
more of that later on. But yeah, we've known each other for a while. We've worked our businesses work well. We refer a lot of clients to you. We've met a lot of clients at your different events, stuff like that. Our students, I think about 97% of our coaching students are clients. And I know we have another one from this past weekend who's working with you to help them with some stuff. But let's dive into this. I mean, unless you, I don't know if you've got a presentation, we just talk about this. When people are starting in business or a new business, like a lot of our clients are coming out of the workforce and starting investing part time. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you and your team over at Laughlin see people make or fail to take action on so that they're protected in the long run?
Yeah, that's a what a perfect place to start.
Right.
Yeah, no, I didn't bring a presentation. This is just we can just have a conversation. So the biggest there. Okay, let me pontificate for a moment. One of the biggest mistakes, maybe the fundamentally biggest mistake, is not thinking in advance about what they're hoping to achieve by investing in notes, by getting into the real estate game, by leaving their W-2 job or augmenting their W-2 job with something that's more entrepreneurial or more, side hustle or whatever they want to think it is. And I loved what you said in the introduction. If you get into the real estate business and you're buying assets with the idea of either selling them, flipping them for more money, or cash flowing from them, or well, that cash flowing would be a buy and hold,
Or
um,
foreclosing. That's one of the major things we
or
see happens for.
foreclosing.
Yep.
Yeah, if that's in business and now you're interacting with the public, and so I think when people think about being a business owner, a lot of times they think about having an office and having employees and so on. But a business is any way that we're buying and selling something with somebody else. Now we're in business, we're doing a deal. And whether it's somebody's very first note or their 150th note or 1000th note, there, as soon as you start this, there are some things that you want to do in order to get a couple of benefits. One is the tax benefits that come along with becoming a business. You can even lose money 3 out of 5 years, and still be able to be taking some deductions. You can't, just a little hobby may not get it for you, but when you're buying a piece of real estate, buying somebody's deed, buying the note on that property, I mean, that's it, that you're really in business now. That's a real legitimate asset. Way bigger than just your simple little, I think I'll open an Etsy store,
Right.
right? No offense to the Etsy store people. So the first thing is you get some tax opportunities if you do things right. And then you also get protection. And the biggest protection is the separation of your personal stuff from this business activity. Because a lot of people say, well, I don't have that much value in my business. Why do I need to do anything? And I'm saying, well, do you have any value at home? Do you have equity in your house? Do you own your cars? Do you have a savings account? Do you have retirement? Because that stuff could be quickly put into jeopardy by one screw up on your beginning efforts to get into business. And so you don't need to be afraid of this stuff. You just have to be aware that there are some rules of the game that you need to follow. So when you say where's the big mistake? The first mistake is going, okay, well, or not saying, what am I doing this for? What is my goal in getting involved with buying non-performing notes in this case, right? What's my goal? How do I know if I'm successful in this? How am I going to be able to demonstrate success? Okay, so in order to demonstrate the success, what's going to be the best way to be in the real estate asset business? Well, probably going to be LLCs, not C corporations, right? Okay, so I'm gonna need LLCs. Well, what are the rules in LLCs? Because if I'm investing in California versus in Tennessee versus in New York State, there may be different rules from state to state. Can I hold them all in one LLC? Do I have to have an LLC in that other jurisdiction? These are just things you need to know about and then follow the rules. Oh, I've got a bunch of LLCs now, and some of them are starting to have equity. Like there's a few $100,000 now in my little portfolio. Well, maybe I now want to create another level of separation, and now you put a management company or holding company in between. And maybe I maybe need to use Nevada or Wyoming. You start to get more complexities, you start getting more value. And for the few $100s you spend to set it up, you're protecting tens or hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. We have tons of clients who have millions of dollars of real estate assets that they own. And I mean, they have equity. I don't mean the market value, I mean equity, their value. So what we want to do is begin with the end in mind. Know what are we striving to accomplish? What are the tools that we need to accomplish it? Because here's the deal. To everybody that's listening, if I say, look, I'm going to get into the gravel delivery business, and I don't have much money right now, so I'm just going to use what's the simplest thing, which is my minivan. So I'm just going to go in there and with a shovel, load up the back of my minivan with whatever gravel I can get in the back and then drive it over there. And I can't dump it. So I'm going to have to take it out and put it in a wheelbarrow and struggle through the mud. And, so you can do it in sort of a stupid, inefficient way, or you can do it in a logical, intentional, and what will end up being a lot less expensive way by just getting clear on what is it you're hoping to accomplish and then just getting the right tools in place so that you get the best tax treatment and the greatest level of asset protection. And that might have seemed like a lot of words to answer a simple question, but I really want to impress upon whomever may be listening to me right now that um, there's a old cowboy saying, and you guys don't know me, and I'm sitting here at my beach house right now talking to you, but I'm a horseman, and we breed horses and sell horses, and we've been doing this for many years. And amongst cowboy logic, it says, good saddles ain't cheap, and cheap saddles ain't good.
True. Truer
So
words never spoken.
get the right tool for what you need, because it will end up being, and they say, why is that cheap saddle not good? Well, because if you go on a long ride, you're going to be uncomfortable, and your horse is going to get uncomfortable or hurt by a bad saddle. Likewise, in business, using the right tools for the job will make the whole job easier and get you the right result, versus using the wrong tool, or my brother-in-law did this, so I just do what they did, or I watched some YouTube short where somebody said if I set up an S corp, I could quickly get $250,000 of business credit without any personal guarantees. There's all these lies going on in the world, and we don't want that. We want to get people exactly what they need, no more, no less, so they can do the right job, get the tax benefit, get the asset protection, and then have the easiest path forward to focus on buying assets and not focus on fixing mistakes down the road.
You also are very well known, other besides cowboy logic, of saying something, if I remember correctly, where the corporation is not me and I'm not the corporation, or I'm not
Yeah,
the
that's right.
LLC.
I'm not the corporation. The corporation's not me. We're separate. It's a separate paper person from you. And one of the big mistakes people make, so let's say you go, okay, I know I need an LLC to start doing my note buying. So you go to some service, you come to Laughlin, you do it yourself online, whatever. But then what do? You say, oh, I got it, I have it. Um, at that point, unless you do certain legal obligations, some legal requirements, and if you don't do them, and most people that don't use professional services don't get this done. If you don't have an initial meeting, if you don't have a board meeting, if you don't pass some resolutions, if you don't have an operating agreement, if you don't distribute stock, if you don't write who got the stock in the stock ledger in your corporate minute book, if you don't do these things and then have regular board meetings at least once a quarter, if you don't do that stuff, if you're ever examined in an audit or in a lawsuit, your adversary, that auditor or that lawyer that's coming after you, they'll look at your corporate minute book and they'll go, oh, you never did any of the stuff that was required to be done. So this company isn't real. You really paid the state for it, but it doesn't give you any of the value, any of the tax benefits, gives you zero asset protection because you didn't follow the rules. And unfortunately, at least amongst the people I come in contact with, and Scott, I come in contact with a lot of people. I speak often. I have a lot of clients. I'm involved in some of the highest level mastermind groups in the country. I mean, I'm involved with business owners all the time. And I would make an argument that maybe 95% of the privately held, no board of directors looking over your shoulder, a third party. So if you have a company, you're probably the one and only member of the board, right? Because somebody has to be.
Right.
So, but I'm talking about where you have oversight from outsiders, investors wanting to see stuff. If it's just you, which is almost all of the 23 million companies out there, if it's just you, the odds are you're not holding board meetings. Okay, well, that makes sense, because why would you hold a meeting with yourself for a company you own 100% of, and that it's all your money? You're the only one at risk. Why would you hold a board meeting? How stupid is that? How schizophrenic is to have a meeting with yourself? And yet, the answer is, why would you do it? because it's the law, because the law says you must do it in order for you, the person, to be separate from it, the business. So if I'm not the corporation is not me. The only thing that proves that is the documentation and the repetitive meetings, this sort of demonstration that I am consistently trying to show that it is separate from my personal stuff. That way, I can get the tax benefits of it. That way, if there is a problem, like the business fails, it can die without it taking my personal estate with it, and so on. So, yeah, I mean, people, this idea of I'm not the corporation is not me, or I'm not the LLC is not me, is one that if more small business owners would think about and acknowledge, and then go, oh, okay, I know that this money that is sitting here in my cash register belongs to the business, not to me, versus me just saying, oh, I can take all the cash and stick it in my pocket because it's my business. If you're a sole proprietor, you don't have a corporation or LLC, it's just you, then you can do that. You and your business are one and the same. And if you have a problem at the business, all of your stuff is at risk. But if you've created a corporation or LLC and you're following the rules, then problems over there don't affect home, or problems at home, like a divorce, like an accident, like medical bills, like I said, an accident, like car accidents or something. Those things can't come over and bleed over onto the business. The business can keep going. Even if you lose all your personal stuff, you can still have an operating cash flowing business. So if you want that, kind of belt and suspenders protection, I don't know if people these days use suspenders, unless you're kind of a, what do they call them? I can't think of it. The guys that have the cool mustaches and what do they call those guys that live in town? What am I trying to say? The guys that live in town but wear Carhartt jackets all times and heavy boots.
Yeah, I know what you're
I
talking
can't
about.
think of the expression right now, but anyway, um, though if you want the double protection, if you want to build an empire where there's real wealth, you use corporate structures, LLCs, C corps, S corps, foundations, limited partnerships, trusts. You use all these pieces because they're the right tools. Why do you need all these tools? Well, if you go to take your car in to get fixed, or your truck, because you drive a truck, I think, Scott.
Yep.
If you go in there and the mechanic only has one tool, all they have is a hammer, that's it. Well, do you think they're going to do a very excellent job on repairing your transmission with just beating it with a hammer? No, they have that huge giant snap-on thing with 9,000 tools in it, right? And then a bunch of other pieces up on the wall, because you want to have the exact right tool to give you the exact right result. We can do that as your business gets bigger and stronger and more valuable, or as you have multiple projects going at one time. But it takes understanding what the tools are, how to use them, when to use them, and and understand why you would want to use it in the first place. So anyway, again,
total
long answers. You want me to shorten these up?
No, these are great because they tells the story. Let's define it a little bit better. Going back to our gravel truck example.
Good.
Okay?
Let's go.
So most people, they start a gravel, they're going to gravel truck. They use their own car. In this case, minivan, where it's not very effective, but they're driving down the road. Yep. If they hit something, they're going to be, just say sued. Somebody sues them, their personal assets, their house, the caravan, or whatever they're shoveling the gravel into, that can get taken away.
Sure.
And think now, if they make a little bit of money and they start a company, they go hire a better truck, a gravel truck, better tools to do that. And that same gravel truck, though, let's say a rock flies out of it, hits somebody in the car, that truck can still, that LLC, that company can still get sued. If somebody runs, it can hit sued, but it's separate because the LLC is the new baby. It's the new entity. And as everything is recorded properly and it's monthly reports and all that stuff, the board meetings for the
Yep. Board
baby,
meetings, minutes, resolutions, stop,
all
everything that goes into proving it's not you.
yeah,
Yeah.
is keeps it separate. So if something happens, it happens to the LLC. Doesn't happen to the person that owns the company as long as they've done the right things. In a lot of cases, too, a lot of these companies will have separate LLCs for different trucks, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a big thing that people don't realize is that well, or you can even go further. Well, let me stick to that point because all of a sudden I go off on a rabbit trail. Yeah, there most people don't realize if they go up snow skiing that the chairlift almost in almost every case individual chairlifts are owned in different corporations. And the reason is because that corporation can have insurance and if something goes wrong, somebody falls out of the chairlift, the chairlift stops and they get hypothermia sitting up there in the cold. Um, the wire breaks and the chairs fall. Some horrible thing happens. You don't lose the whole ski resort. You just lose the value of that chairlift and of the insurance. Um, and so, yes, in if you had a whole bunch of heavy machinery like dump trucks, yes, not only would you not own them in your name, you don't own them in the name of a company, you may use multiple companies depending on how much risk and how much value there was. How much can you afford to lose? That's how much value you want to get into any one entity. And when you go, oh, my tolerance for risk is met now, then you open a second one. I've got, this much money in this stock account. I think I better open a second account at a different brokerage and on that, or crypto is a great example of that right now, where some of these exchanges, we've seen a couple of them fail and then your
Yeah.
value just disappears. So you diversify and you don't keep all your eggs in one basket. And for those of you who don't know what that means, people used to have chickens and eggs, and the eggs were valuable and they had them in a basket. So you don't want to keep all the eggs in one basket because if you trip and it falls, you lose all your stuff. If you have two baskets, I mean, we use these expressions chomping at the bit. That's a horse reference, right?
Yep.
I'm excited. Hold your horses, rein them
Hmm.
in. All
That's right.
horses. But people go, what does that exactly mean? Is that RAIN? Rein it in.
No, REIGHA.
Guys, yeah, exactly. But the point is, you need to understand what you're doing, and these old sayings still are valuable. Don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Don't keep all your value in one company, because you will have problems. I remember hearing from the CFO of Intel Corporation that guy was over several thousand entities that held a contract, a patent, some assembly line, some little piece that all went into making that chip, right? They
Hmm.
didn't keep it all in Intel Corporation. It was all
Well,
divided up.
we see that all the time happening here in the note business, where different funds, different banks will sell notes or assets off of one weird fund. I mean, we were just looking at the foreclosure list earlier today, and all these companies have different series or different fund number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, depending on what the assets are held into it.
Yeah.
Because it's the same kind of thing. It's like if you own a portfolio of rentals and they're all in your personal name, and you have the contractor fall off, he's coming after you individually. If it's
Yeah.
in an LLC, or you have two homes in an LLC and they fall off in terms of, they can only come after that LLC that holds the two houses, not your personal residence or
Right.
your whole, as long as it's set up properly with the correct entities.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right.
Now, one of the things too is that people think that they go and get an LLC, they get an EIN. Where do they're not going out and documenting this stuff? How difficult is it for people to document this stuff, Aaron? Is there a company that does that for people?
Funny you should ask, Scott.
That's right. Softball. But
Thanks for that, Lob. Well, sure. First of all, people have been doing board meetings and keeping minutes, what's being discussed, passing resolutions, what's been decided, issuing stock. This has been going on for hundreds of years. Okay. The first corporations were set up over 500 years ago. And the rules have not dramatically changed. And most, I mean, what we use is basically under British common law. So most, with the exception of France, I mean, most European um, countries, certainly the United States of America, all the British Commonwealth countries we're all using British common law. You know, there's an exception. Louisiana still uses a lot of
Right.
French Napoleonic law, right? They still use a lot of the French rules. But here's the bottom line is mostly this stuff is all well known how to do it. The deal is most entrepreneurs, one, if you have a brain for being an investor, risk taker, maverick, entrepreneur, you probably don't really like to do paperwork. You probably like to be dreaming of what you're working on, going out and figuring out how to get it done, fulfilling on that, selling on it, getting a big check, going to Tahiti or going, wherever you like to go horseback riding or water skiing or whatever you love to do. Um, the idea of sitting around going, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Let's review the meeting minutes of the last meeting. Okay, let's go ahead and approve those. All right. You know, people just don't do that. And the vast majority of business entities in this country are one or two owners, and it's usually me or me and my spouse, me and my kid, me and my buddy, right? That's pretty much what they are. Um, and in those situations, which is the vast majority of small businesses, they neither have any knowledge of, experience with, or inclination toward doing corporate formalities, doing the paperwork. And so we noticed that 20 some years ago and went out and got some legal opinions about, well, what can we do as non-lawyers to help our clients meet the legal obligation? And we got a couple of legal opinions around that. And we started offering a service that we call the corporate veil, right? The corporate veil is what separates your personal stuff from your business stuff. Corporate veil. And the corporate veil is the documents that we were just talking about. So we set up something called the Corporate Veil Protection Service, which is a done for you service. So we talk to our clients every month or every other month, depending on what they want, and sort of interview stuff out of them that they'd been doing, create the appropriate document, send it back to them to sign and put it in their corporate minute book so that they're always up to date. It's very inexpensive. It's very easy. If you can give us 10 minutes a month, odds are you're gonna be ahead of the vast majority of companies out there, and it really is super cheap. Um, the first year is a little more expensive because we usually have to go back in time and get them caught up, but on renewal, the second year is like $49 a month. The first year's closer to $80 a month, and then it drops down because we've gotten the old work done and we're just doing the new work. Well, I want people to understand this stuff is not expensive. It's very, very accessible. If you're really in business, it's almost silly, simply expensive or cheap. It's almost silly cheap. Um, if you're just getting started, you don't want to maybe add another bill, but you also maybe don't have much to protect. Decide what do you have to protect at home from this little baby business, and decide is it worth spending $1,000 the first year to make sure I'm all dialed in and set up right and following all the rules. And by the way, somebody else is thinking about it, not you, right? You just have to give up 10 minutes a month to talk on the phone. All right. Um, if you have those things in place, you have a almost zero chance, as long as there's no fraud. If you've been showing a consistent propensity to do this in a timely way, like the law thinks you ought to be doing it, then you're not going to have your corporate veil pierced. But if they can see that you're not taking it seriously, what a lot of people say to me, I love this, the thing they say to me, well, we started out really well and then we kind of slacked off. That is a lie. No offense to all the people that told me that. You didn't ever start off well. You never did anything.
Right.
You never did anything because you didn't know what to do. And I'm not picking on anybody. I've been guilty of the same thing when I was starting out. Um, there's no shame in it. You know where the shame is not going, oh, I didn't know that. I should probably do something about that. If you don't, once you learn what you're supposed to do and you know it's not like a good idea, it's the law in all 50 states. The law says you must do this or you don't get the benefits. And so now that you're learning, if you don't do it now, then shame on you. You're the one, you will know, gosh dang it. I was listening to that show with Scott Carson and they were talking about this, but I got busy, watching something on YouTube and I spaced it off. And now here I am losing my home. And I know people who've been through much worse than that. And they come back. I had one guy tell me the other day, he lost, what did he tell me? I'm going to be conservative. I think it was more than this, but he said the number $18 million is sticking in my mind. And he said, I knew what to do. I had learned it from Laughlin. I had part of the work done, and then I just never finished it. And then I got in a lawsuit and I lost everything and I lost $18 million, which I would not have lost in that lawsuit if I just finished setting things up the way they showed me, they wanted me to do. But I got busy. He'd even paid for it. He just hadn't finished it. That's pretty heartbreaking. I didn't finish something that cost me a couple grand to set up, and I lost $18 million. God, that's a horrible day.
That's a bad, it's a
really
bad, that's a bad, but that's the thing is a lot of people, when you're seeing through all the different things, we don't think a lot of times these things come to mind, but you talk about board meetings, but also anytime you're doing a new contract or a new lease or new vendors, there's a literally, but you get on previous presentations, you have a slide that goes on for about 3 minutes with different things that pop up that you need to be recorded.
Yeah. When I give a talk, I have that one that says, here are just the most common things you need board resolutions for. And all those yellow sticky notes go up. It's always interesting because the audience, they watch and then they kind of laugh like, oh, this is a joke. And then they get quiet and then they're like, and you can tell it's sinking in. Oh, petty cash, you need a board resolution for that. Changing CPAs, signing a lease, borrowing money, and these are just the common ones. There's well over 1,000 things that need a board resolution to be legally done, and I just show maybe 100 of the most common ones, maybe. Yeah, folks, if you're listening and it sounds like we're trying to instill fear, we're not.
No, not at all.
But it is important that you become educated on this so that you never have to feel that sickening feeling of really being at risk and having somebody threaten you or come at you with a lawsuit and you go, I'm unprepared. Mm-hmm. Dang it. Right. And you can't, at that point, you can't go back and fix it.
No, it's not. And you're also not going to have your local real estate attorney do this stuff for you too. Or I have gotten an attorney. They don't want to do it. It's not worth their time to do it. And that's why we like bringing on Aaron and his team at Laughlin, because they do it at a much more affordable rate, and they'll actually be very proactive in reaching out to you. Hey, what do you have this past month? What did you do this month that we need to create something, send it to you to sign, and slap it in your free ring?
Yeah. Did you buy something? Did you sell something? Are you looking at moving? Did you change anybody? Did anybody get a pay raise? Did all these little things that they're easy to do, but if you don't know the question to ask, if you don't know the format to create, people could say, well, I could do this with AI. And you know what? You can if you know what to document.
Yeah. And how to ask AI correctly, which is a whole different story.
Yeah. And make sure that when AI goes out and spiders out there into the world and comes back with something, they come back with something that was actually works for your state.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Now you guys do this, what's the best way for folks if they're interested in that? I mean, no, everybody should be interested in it. It's one of the most valuable things you can take. Where do they go to? LaughlinUSA.com is the best website for them
to go to laughlinusa.com or I mean, if they want to just call 775, I'm sure you'll put this in the notes, 775 883 8484. 775 883 8484. Super easy. Just this is so simple. And you know what? We even go and report to the business credit bureaus for you if you're doing this on a monthly payment instead of a one-time payment. And or you can use that 800 and up there, 6480966. And
And
this,
the great thing that you guys do as well, too, you've worked with so many note investors out there that you guys, I won't say you have a turnkey, but the whole team is familiar with what people
oh
are
yeah.
doing as note real estate investors to set things up properly. They won't overset you up with things, but they will also look at, it's great to have a third set of eyes or fourth set of eyes, look at what you're doing, your assets, and help you not only just with your real estate stuff, your LC, but help you really protect yourself to help you grow into that through other asset protection or estate planning too, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Our goal and our experience is that people stay with us for a very long time. Once they start using our services, they see how simple and straightforward and easy it is to have us deal with it. You notice that where it says Laughlin since 1972. People, we have clients. I've met clients that started with Laughlin back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So they've been doing this with us for 40 plus years now, and they're old. They were young when they started. Now they're in their old age. Um, but the systems work. So as long as your business stays viable, the odds are of you sticking with us are really quite good. Um, and so we don't want to oversell you, nor do we want to undersell you where just to collect money, you don't actually get the minimum thing that you need. And so, but you're talking about hundreds, not thousands of dollars. I mean, unless you need something really complicated, with lots of pieces to it and lots of legal work and so on, a typical sale where you have your entity, your minute book, your initial meeting, your corporate veil protection for a year, and so on, is right under $1,000. And so it's a it's a it's kind of a no-brainer if you're going to do anything with any real value. If your company's only going to do $1,000 a year, well, maybe you can take a risk. If you're gonna do anything and make some money, and if you're going to engage with the public and you have anything of value that you own personally, putting this buffer between your personal estate and your business activities is just prudent business. It's just like, I don't want to be too harsh, so I'll just say dumbbell obvious. Um, so I know that's kind of harsh, but I mean, guys, if you say you're a business owner and you are not willing to spend a little bit of money on making sure that you actually get the value, get the legitimate value, not a free filing, oh, we'll set you up for free, because you're going to pay at least the state fees. And then you don't get a minute book, you don't get initial meeting, you don't get minutes and resolutions, you don't get stock certificates, you don't get anything that makes you real. It's I noticed you've got a Disney shirt on. I noticed that a minute ago, Scott. It's like if I go to Orlando and I buy a ticket to go into the Magic Kingdom and spend, I don't know what it is now, about 115, $120.
I think it's a little higher than that, but yeah, we'll just say it
Let's
that.
say it's $120 for me to go to the Magic Kingdom for the day. Forget park hopper, right? Just go to the Magic Kingdom. If I go spend that money, which is like filing with the state, and then I turn around and I go to the beach, I go to NASA, I go back to the hotel room and take a nap, and I just don't go to the park. Well, I did pay for something and I had the right to do something, but I never got the value that I paid for, right? And that's when you go do a free filing for your company and that's all you do, what you have is you basically paid a government fee, but you got zero value from the fee. Zero. You think you have something, but you do not have anything. If you don't do the corporate formalities, you don't have a legitimate company. Period. The end. That's not overstating. That's just a fact. And
So,
so go ahead. Yeah.
no, I just want to say that's so true. You don't have anything. You have a personal thing that you're doing on the side. You have a hobby. You've got an online thing that's not a legitimate business that
Well,
you can
and no
sell or
separation from you.
yeah, yeah.
No, people get lulled into this false sense of security. And I was talking to somebody recently who does um, over 5,000 entity formations a month. And they do them for free. And I said, what's your value proposition for yourself? Like, how are you getting value? And he said, oh, it's all in the upsells. So this is just a way to get a bunch of data from people. And then we can either sell the data, we can let people market to that list, or we can sell them stuff um, once we've kind of captured them. So there's nothing wrong with that, but just be aware that the companies that are doing that, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's more to do after you file.
And it's
So
also more to do besides just going to like legal Zoom online or going to the state secretary, Secretary of State website to create an LLC in the state that you're in, and then file. You have to
yeah.
take the different steps to really separate yourself. As Aaron says, or likes to say, I am not the corporation. The corporation is not me. You've got to set that stuff up and start. And I had to start thinking differently too, versus like, oh, I'm going to pull it from here. Well, no. There's things you don't want to do to protect yourself, especially in the long run if you plan on being in business for a long time.
Oh, if you're going to be in business for a long time, which means you're making money, right? Um, you your your biggest expense of the year is going to be your taxes. So anything you can do to dramatically reduce taxes legally is better. And a properly formed business entity that is the correct business entity for the business you're in. There's a reason why there are C corporations, S corporations, LLCs, 4 different ways for LLCs to be taxed, limited partnerships, trusts, a variety of trusts, triple LCs, professional corporations. The reason there's not a one size fits all is because each one of those is like the tool in the Snap-on toolbox,
Yeah.
right? And so to just go and take a guess at what to do at the Secretary of State's office or at LegalZoom, where you'll get no consultation, is
Asking for trouble. Asking for trouble
you
end up
might
in
get lucky. You might get lucky and get the right thing. The odds of you getting the right thing are, well, at least 1 in 5 or 6, because if there's 5 or 6 things to choose from and you're going to pick one of them, you might get it right. There's another game like that called Russian roulette.
That's so true. But that's it. You're messing with future issues that you don't know. That's why it's good to get professionals help you out with it. That's why Laughlin and Associates, and you guys know we don't recommend a company that we don't use or no familiarity with. This is one of the great ways for you. We've looked at other companies in the past. There's no better service out there. You can get somebody on the phone, whether you're here in the United States or in our neighbors to the north in the 51st state, Canada, who knows? We get a lot of folks from outside the United States that want to do notes, and it's a great way to talk to the folks at Laughlin. They know what's going on. They're going to steer you in the right direction, not upsell you, and really help you maybe sleep a little bit better at night or help you find those opportunities. Now, you've also got an amazing event besides the corporate veil protection that you guys do.
Oh, we do a lot of things, but yeah, we do the event twice a year. That one, is that what you want to talk
Yeah,
about?
your Magnify Your Wealth event. Let's talk about that for a few minutes here because I think it's important. I think it's one of the most valuable events that people can go to, especially as entrepreneurs and business owners.
So twice a year we do something called the Magnify Your Wealth Summit. Um, there's always at least one of them in San Diego. Sometimes we do both of them in San Diego. Sometimes the last one we were in Florida. But no, that's me when I didn't have a beard. I just noticed, and there's you. Look
Yep.
at that.
Yep.
All right. Well, anyway, Magnify Your Wealth is designed to give people the chance to not only hear about these things, but to get details, take notes. And then one of the things we do that's really cool is at Magnify Your Wealth, you can schedule time with the speakers. So if that lawyer or accountant, or like, let's say Scott Carson is there speaking, instead of just listening to the fancy speaker up on the stage, you can go out to the registration desk and say, I need to sit with Scott. I need to sit with that lawyer, that accountant, that strategist, that self-directed IRA person or whatever, and have a private meeting where they're not talking to everybody, they're just talking to me about my situation. And by the way, another thing we do, so stop right there, stop right there. So you see, here's Marta Herrick, who's a CPA, and here's Elizabeth Tresp, who's a lawyer. So how often have people gone to an event and they heard something really great from a lawyer, and they go home and they try to explain it to their accountant or even explain it to their lawyer or their business partner, and they don't exactly know how to explain it right. And when they get asked some questions, they can't really answer it correctly because you don't have a complete answer. But at Magnify Your Wealth, we can get the CPA and the lawyer and the strategist all together. Or here's Caleb Gilliams. Here's somebody that might say, here's how we can add a whole life insurance policy to your asset protection strategy. And here's all the tax benefits Marta's going to show you about. So you get a whole picture of what you want to accomplish, and you get to hear from the various professionals, none of whom work for me. They're all their own companies. And they can come back and kind of, let them slug it out and give you a path forward that you have all the justification legally, accounting wise, and then what other things you may need. Jeff Shatta helps you get loans and develop business credit so you're not the personal guarantor and so on. So you can get these, and this is just part of the group that'll be there speaking. You can get these folks teaching and walking you through a solution for you personally. It's funny for me, I'm looking at some of the people on there and the wide variety of businesses that we're looking at just in the photographs is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it totally is. I mean, you got a ton of not only entrepreneurs, but a lot of real estate investors. You've got people that run funds. There's Shugo Capital, Sarah, I know her.
Sarah, they do large apartment complexes, but they also do a lot with oil and gas.
Yep.
And then you got Sterling there to the left. He buys apartment complexes, but with the goal of getting people, he wants to help the community to get better jobs and be able to. I mean, he's got this whole kind of mission behind owning apartment complex. The upper left-hand corner, Mark Baldus, is both a high-end, like they build schools and that sort of thing, big buildings, but he also owns a helicopter repair company. The next guy over, Michael Gorton, is the founder of Teladoc, $34 billion company. Then you've got Marcos Jacober there, the deed hunter, helping you buy, where you do non-performing deeds, he does these kind of buried, lost tax liens.
Yep.
And it goes on and on right through. So the group of people that you're surrounded with, both in the audience, like these are all audience people, right? And then you've got the speakers. And so the people you're surrounded by are pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And we keep it small. We keep it to 120 or less people so that there's room for the attendees to sit and meet with the speakers and get the answers they want. I get a lot of trouble from people saying that we should be 300, 400 people. And I say, well, then you won't be able to meet with the speakers. Do you want to give that up?
No.
Nobody ever wants to give it up.
No. And this is one of the most impactful events. The next one we see on here, April 25th or 27th in San Diego. If you're watching us after this, make sure just to go to magnifyyourwealth.com because the newest date will be up there like twice a year. East Coast, West Coast, you've held it in Denver before. It's been great. Orlando or Tampa, stuff like that too. Check it out. Very affordable. We're going to go to it.
It's very inexpensive. That's the other thing. People say, why don't you charge more? You should charge way more for this. And I say, well, because I want the people that are just getting started to be able to come because they need a lot of this. And if the people that are rich, that are really successful. I had one guy come in with a portfolio of free and clear real estate, $750 million worth of real estate that he wanted to do a 1031 on. And he was sitting in the audience. He wasn't one of the speakers. and that's a legitimate guy. His pool in Kauai just won third year in a row, best pool in the Western Hemisphere uh, for his resort there in Kauai. But I mean, these are the people that you may be sitting next to in the audience. And then you might be sitting next to somebody who's got a W-2 job and has their first note that they just bought from through Scott Carson's training, and they're like, I need to really figure this out because I want to buy 150 notes this year.
Yeah, it's one of the great things we hear back from our coaching students, people gone to it. It's eye-opening. They see things on a different level. The networking's great. It's a lot of educational stuff, but also you make it bite-sizable and understandable. And the ability to sit down with somebody who can review your situation, your assets, and where you're at, not cookie cutter, because we're all different. We all got different things going on, is one of the most valuable things there. It would cost you thousands of dollars to meet with other professionals out there, other advisors. This way you can meet with them, talk with them, and they put a plan together. Sometimes minimize your plan, sometimes expand your plan depending on where you're at.
Yeah,
So,
people, you'll be surprised if you have question marks. I sat in a meeting with a very well-heeled husband and wife who we've had as clients for a very long time. And in the past year, we had shrunken down their strategy because things had changed.
yep.
And they were like, okay, now we have this new thing we're going to do. And they wanted to know, how does the new thing fit into the structure that we built? So these things are not set it and forget it. They are dynamic. They need to be considered. And if you do that, they will serve you in the current tax strategy or current tax system. If I mean, Trump came in, big tax cuts. Biden came in and started adding stuff on top and created all kinds of more debt, which you could make. I mean, believe me, I benefited from the COVID
Yep.
government help. But now we have to pay the piper for all that money, right? Now you've got now Biden's out, now Trump's back in, and you've got all these new things they're doing. They're slashing departments. And if there's one thing we've learned in government over the last 20 years, is that the red and the blue teams like to come in and throw out what the other guys did and put in something new, which means your corporate strategy may need to adjust to the new rules. So coming to something like Magnify Your Wealth gives you an opportunity to hear what's the most recent information and make sure that whatever you're doing still works under the new leadership.
Yeah. Whether you're buying your first note or you've got 1,000 notes, 1,000 different things, this is a place for you to go to make sure everything is rocking and rolling there for you guys. So check it out. LaughlinUSA.com is for everything that Laughlin does. But if you want to register for the Magnify Your Wealth, it's real easy. Just go to magnifyyourwealth.com and check back regularly on that, because it's a great event to go to. Bar none, second to none, a must-attend event if you're going to be in real estate long-term, for sure.
Thank you, Scott. That's a huge endorsement. I really appreciate that.
No problem. No problem. Well, it has been great catching up. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing stuff. I think you've also got some other other videos on the website to learn more about LLCs and entities and stuff like that. Check it out. It's a wealth of knowledge on there. But pick up the phone, give them a phone call, talk to something at Laughlin, making sure you're set up correctly, properly. And it can vary state to state a little bit too out there for you. But go take some action, everybody.